Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us today on Authentic Conversations presented by Transition Clarity. I'm your host, Adele Bernard, and today is my pleasure to introduce JD Schultz from Little Heart Academy. She is a mother of 5, a grandmother of 12, an educator. I wouldn't say teacher, educator, because they're
Ah,
slightly different for over 20
mhm.
years and helping parents and their children thrive.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So let's go a little bit into your background,
Okay.
synopsis of how you became this person of Little Hearts Academy, podcaster, the shtick.
Well, I taught kindergarten and then some preschool for over 20 years, even a little high school at the very beginning. And um, actually, that was a big deal because when I was spending that time in the high school, I realized that there were a lot of holes with our kids. And I love them. We got along great, all of that. But I could just see that there were some foundational holes that needed to be addressed. And so I went back and got my early childhood degree and started with the little guys. And so um, I learned a lot from being a mom
Mhm.
and being the oldest of 7. So I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and 5 of them are boys. And I wound up, being the helper, right? You're the oldest. And so I changed a lot of diapers and I helped with potty training and I, helped with how they looked at the world. And I thought about that. Um, and so it's always been a natural thing for me to be around kids. And so to come to understand how they develop, how, they progress socially and emotionally and spiritually and all of those things from the very beginning. And we've got those foundational years when we know that we are working to teach them how they look at the world. Is the world a safe place? Am I a worthwhile person?
Mhm.
How do I define myself? Those things are pretty much cemented um, in those early years. Now, can you break up cement and start with something new? Yeah, but it's going to take a jackhammer, right? As they get older, it's harder. It's possible, but it's much harder to help them redefine those things that they learned in those very early years. And so that's what I'm here to do, is to help parents and sometimes grandparents, even I've had grandparents come through, caregivers, all of those things, understand how kids are developing, what's to expect. When I hear people tell kids, act your age, right? I want to shout out, they are.
Yeah. Isn't
They're
that the
doing,
truth?
it is. And sometimes acting your age isn't the funnest thing to have to deal with. It is normal for a 3-year-old to throw a tantrum in the middle of the cereal aisle at the store. That's not an unexpected behavior. Is it difficult to deal with? Well, yeah, but do you need to be all set aside and
Well,
crazy about it?
and
No.
that's interesting as you brought that up because I was that 3-year-old, right? I was. I would be fine and then I wouldn't be fine.
Yeah.
And my mom was like instrumental
Mm.
in whatever. And she
Yeah.
just carried on.
Hmm.
She
Yeah.
didn't she didn't acknowledge that I was having my tantrum. She didn't like that wasn't happening. She
Hmm.
carried on the shopping and I would catch up to her when I was done.
Yeah.
Where I find parents now are so, don't do that, you're embarrassing me or whatever.
Hmm.
Don't take it personally.
Well,
It's
and
like
I
the
think
kid has to go to the plant and put all the dirt in their mouth and you go, did I just water the plant or did I put like food in with the plant? How dangerous is that, dirt, right?
exactly. Hmm.
Right. And then you think about the clay of like, especially the last 3 years of
Hmm.
here are these kids, we're trying to figure out who they are,
Hmm.
but they can't because they're all on a screen.
Hmm.
They don't know that, little Johnny is fun and little Billy might not be, but they're, because of the screen, they're kind of following little Billy, and you as a parent's going, oh my gosh, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
the screen shows a different personality,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and two, I think things have changed a little bit from, when you were a kid, when I was a kid. You're younger than I am, but um, but a mom could walk away from a child throwing their tantrum in the store. I remember my mom, she would go in, and we lived in Oakland, California at the time,
Mhm.
in the 60s. And she would just drop me off at the toy aisle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd sit there and play with the different toys, and she'd go do her shopping. And there were probably a couple other kids with me that were doing the same thing. And no one was going to call the cops or CPS or turn anybody in. If you did that now, then you've got some issues. And so I think parents are more um, concerned because of that, but you still handle it in a positive way
Well,
instead of worrying about what people are thinking.
and growing up, our grocery stores used to have little daycare pens. That's the only way I could describe them. It was like in the front of the store by the
Uh-huh,
cashiers, and it was
uh-huh,
literally a gated area that had
uh-huh.
toys,
Oh, wow.
right?
That's so
And
cool.
I don't remember anyone kind of watching us, but we were putting the pen, right? And it was high
In
enough
the
that we,
cage you go.
yeah, and it was high enough that we couldn't crawl out
Hmm.
and we couldn't reach the latch that, or whatever, or
Hmm.
I don't remember even trying to reach the latch, but
Hmm.
so these stores had that. But then I realized, like, like because I've worked with schools and I've been around kids a lot, that I think the parents had so much freedom growing up that now they're overprotective.
Mm.
And these kids are coming out of high school and even college,
Yeah,
they can't tie their shoes, as a metaphor. They can read, they can write, they can speak, but they're scared of their own shadows.
yeah,
And I see
yeah.
it in animals too, right? It's like, you gotta let the kid fall and know he's
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
And I think Gary Vee's probably one of the best people on social for that, because
Hmm.
he's like, if you've done your best and that's all you can, if that's the best you can do, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you're 5'2" and that's your tallest you're gonna get, are you getting an NBA basketball player? Not unless you're scrappy as a get out and you got trampolines as feet,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's honoring the effort rather
Hmm.
than the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're 5'2", doesn't mean that you can't still enjoy basketball. You
Yeah.
can play with
You
friends
just,
and siblings,
yeah,
but you're just not going to be at that level,
yeah.
right? And so you can still enjoy parts of it. And I think sometimes we're thinking in the terms of, all or nothing in a lot of ways. And two, I think that we do worry a lot about what other people are thinking rather than what does my child need right now.
Mhm.
And I think that we also are taking in so many ways the easy way out in that screen time is easy. You throw the screen in front of the kid and yeah, they're quiet for a while, but there are tons of studies that are showing that even as little as a half an hour in front of a screen, when that screen time is done, you're taking it away. Kids are actually more grumpy. They're angry. They're more aggressive.
Mhm.
They're whiny. They're finding all of these things are happening, even with a relatively short screen time.
Well,
So,
and then there's another study of, if they can sit there for 4+ hours,
mhm.
they're the next generation of addicts.
Wow, yeah.
Because, and so this is
Mhm.
back a study, I think in the 70s or the 80s, before even screen time was an issue. And
Right.
they said, if your child comes to you saying, I'm bored,
Mhm.
be grateful. because they're
Yeah.
realizing they will not have the precursor to dementia. Because if they don't know their board at 6, 7, and 8, they won't understand that their mind is going, and they don't realize they've been sitting there for 2 hours doing nothing and
Doing
toiling.
nothing. Right. Well, and so I grew up in Los Angeles
Mhm.
and with all those brothers, and the youngest didn't come. He was 2 weeks before I turned 17 is when the youngest came. But, you know, we found our own entertainment. And so even being in Los Angeles, in the 70s, we
Mhm.
would be off, get our chores done
Mhm.
Saturday morning, and we were gone.
Mhm.
And we were inventing and trying new things and doing some things that honestly, I'm sure my mom would have found a little scary
Yeah.
on our bikes and, building things and hitting things. But all of that was part of us finding confidence that I can
Mhm.
try this scary thing. And oh, wow, we did it. We accomplished it. Oh, we figured this out. Right. So there's the beautiful Lassen Hill. It was Lassen Hill. And, it was fun to ride your bike down this steep hill and go really fast. But at the very bottom of the hill was the stoplight. Right. And so we did the math, we figured it out, we worked it out it was mostly me and my two brothers that were closest to me in age. And, you know, okay, the light turns at this time, you count this far and you go and you'll hit the green light when you get to the bottom and you can go on through and not get killed by a car. And so we're problem solving, we're working together, we're,
Yeah.
making connections without the adults jumping in and saying, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, you're arguing. Let me fix this for you. We have to end this. We
Well,
had
and,
some,
and I mean, even that example, like you think about it, so it's problem solving, it's
yeah,
like safety,
yeah,
it's physics, right?
yes,
Right? Like,
yes.
okay, so you're going down like on the train, are you gonna crash? Like, right? And it's funny because I remember, it's funny how you brought this up because I was like struggling in physics, and I was like, but I'm really good in math. Why is this so hard? Why can't I
Mm,
not figure out when the train is going to pass the tracks? Like, right? And I couldn't figure this out. And as literally, we were out playing pool one night, and my cousin says, "Why aren't you getting that?" And I go, "I don't know. I don't know why I'm not getting the speed or velocity or whatever the problem was." And then he showed me on the pool table, and I was like,
oh,
oh, that's so stupid. Of course, it's the right angle of the, right?
right.
Physics changed from that day on for me
Yeah, yeah,
because I understood the pool table.
yes.
I could clear the
And when
pool
you're able
table.
to, yeah,
Yeah,
you're able to take it from one situation and take those rules and
yeah,
apply them to another situation
yeah,
is amazing.
yeah,
Is amazing. And it works not just with physics, it works with social connections.
yeah,
It works with math. It works with
yeah,
literature. All of those things. If you can take these rules of, let's say, grammar,
yeah.
right? And you're writing and then you go into another situation and you're able to use that in a different situation,
Mm-hmm,
then things start really worrying in your head, just like you said.
mm-hmm.
And you're able to make amazing connections that are going to solve all kinds of problems.
Well, and it's getting back to the schooling and like, seeing these amazing teachers
Mhm.
with these kids. And I worked very closely with one school for about 4 years. And one day I walk into the school and the math teacher's in the gym. I kind of looked at
Mhm.
her, right? And she goes, they wouldn't sit. So we're running times tables. And I said, oh my gosh, that is ingenious, right?
Yeah.
And so she's just running the times tables because they wouldn't sit and do the math anyway. So she's like, okay, well, we'll change up the classroom. And so there was like being able to change on the fly for what the kids are doing that day. And then even I remember one of the best lessons I ever got from my teacher. I had nothing to do with school. It was a life lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he sat us, we were in class one day, and he says, schoolwork is schoolwork. Get your grades, don't get your grades. He says, but you need to have a passion, a drive, a hobby outside of your 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
says, and I'll tell you why. And he went really quiet. And he, like you could tell, like it was a hard thing. He says, my dad worked for 45 years of his life. He got the golden handshake, the gold watch, whatever. The first month, he was getting up, getting ready, had nowhere to go. The second month, yeah, he might get in the shower 10, 11 in the morning. The third month, we buried him. Because that generation didn't do anything. And they didn't, like they helped raise the kids in a certain way, but not really. They were the providers, and that's what they did. They provided.
Yeah.
And so he sat us down as a class and he says, I beg you. Yes, do your schoolwork, get good grades, get your career. But if you don't have something outside of your career, you don't have a life.
That is
and
so
when I
true.
think about these little kids, right? And I remember like, being near the playground or whatever, and like, say little Johnny gets hurt. And you'd have these empathic kids that don't know they're empathic, whether they're friends or not, circle the kid that got hurt until the teacher came. And people are like, why are you doing that? Because they're so empathic, they are drawn to help. They're like they help. And as soon as they're looked after, the person's looked after by the parent, the whoever, they go back and play. They're good. Right. And it's getting the educators in an overcrowded school system to understand you have all of that in a classroom. Nurturing the brainies, nurturing the empathics, nurturing the ones that just are being told to go, but they don't want to be there.
Right. And it's finding the way. So the really great teacher is the one who is going to recognize this one's good at this. This one's great at that. This one's great at something else. And then finding a way to make them all mesh together and come together, and they don't change, but it's like, oh, we were going to try and build this, kindergarten, we're doing, like some engineering stuff, but we use blocks and Legos and how to figure things out. And so you just throw it out there and you say, now I want you to build X, and I'm not going to tell them what X is going to look like. It might be a castle, it might be a rocket, whatever. And you have to work with someone else, right? And so it's watching them and seeing, how do they interact? Who steps back and lets the other person take charge? Who are the groups that are actually working together, coming up with ideas? And when it all falls down, because, okay, what went wrong? And you're starting to see them work those through. But if you start saying, you're going to draw a flower and it's going to have 5 petals and the circle in the middle, and it's going to have 2 leaves, and and you start giving them all of that, they quit thinking intuitively.
Exactly. It's just like you can't take your colored pencil over the black line. That's how I was taught. You took your finger and hit the black line. And so when I met artists later, they're like, what do you mean you can't cross the line? And I go, I was taught you don't cross the line. I was
taught you don't. Right.
And then they said, but how do you blend the colors? And I'm like, what concept is that?
You don't.
Right?
Don't.
And so that's why I'm like, I find it hilarious that I found all these writers and artists in my life, because I'm like, I didn't use that. I appreciate the art. I appreciate, oh, that's so cool, blending, whatever. And I'm like, oh, I followed the line.
Now, I will tell you, there is a value to that when they're young, preschool, kindergarten, maybe first grade, depending on that, of staying within the line, because then they're building those fine motor skills to be able to write letters. They're building those finger muscles, right? And so when they're learning to stop at the line, they're strengthening those muscles, and it actually will teach them to be able to write. But you don't want to have it only be that. You want it to have time where they have free ability to draw whatever, to cross whatever lines they want. And then you also want to have some time where they're learning to control those fine motor muscles in their fingers and in their hands. And so I remember I would talk to them about strong fingers. Strong fingers know where to stop. And so at first we're going to give them the line, but not every time, right? They get to have that free and intuitive play and drawing and art and painting and all of that, but there is some value in the whole reason for the lines. But I see people who will do all one way and none of the other.
That's fascinating. This is why I do the podcast. I'm just going to let you know. Anyone who's listening, this is why I do the podcast. Because every single podcast, I get that one golden nugget that explains so much for my life. And then I can share it with others. Because I used to always think that was a deficit I had. That I didn't cross the line. So much so I put my finger there so my pencil wouldn't cross the line.
Wow.
Yet, I was a very, very young writer. I had journals from 5 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
See? Yeah.
Because I had powerful intuitions that needed to be written down. And I didn't know what they were, right? Like, I'm like, I don't know, who's talking to me? I'll just write.
Yeah.
And now they call it automatic writing. Okay, great.
Yeah.
The adult in me understands it, but the 5-year-old didn't know. The
Right.
5-year-old just had words that had to come out. And because I was, getting the strength in my fingers, I could hold the pen to write, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes it'd be 10, 12 pages and I just write.
Wow. I've got a grandniece. It's my niece's daughter. That's like that, a lot like you were. And she would sit there for hours, do worksheets and writing in her, stories. And she has a little journal and she's been doing that. She is going into, I think, 3rd grade next year. And she's already got all of this stuff, but that's where her head is. That's where her mind is. And that's where her heart is, and her brother's the exact opposite. Don't give him any kind of a worksheet. He's going to learn.
He's probably doing it differently, like more functional, more like get in the dirt and like build and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So tell me how you went from the classroom to the Little Hearts Academy.
Well, it's funny because most of my teaching career, almost all of it, except for the last 2 years, I spent in very low income, poverty affected areas. And so I was seeing the effects of poverty in my classroom every day. And I would have parents come to me and they would be frustrated and upset. Why isn't so-and-so behaving, or why isn't so-and-so writing, or he's always in trouble for fighting or whatever. And they would ask me, well, what can I do? And so I started talking to them about some of the things that they could do. And we had to start in very baby steps with a lot of my parents because they were very gang affiliated. Sometimes they were dealing with their own drug addictions, alcoholism, violence in the home, violence on the street, and so we started working with them and teaching them and just looking at, and it's the approach I take with my students, whether they're kindergartners or mommies and daddies or teachers. I've worked with teachers in this area too, but it's where are you right now? What do you understand? What do you get? And then what is the next step? I'm not looking at what's down the road. I'm looking at what is the next step that we can take to get you a little closer. We spend so much time as parents and teachers worrying about what should be, right?
Mhm.
Well, he should be reading by now. Well, he should be able to count to 100 by fives by now. He should, or, whatever it is, he should be able to jump with 2 feet, go down the steps one step at a time instead of, a step here, step here, step here. And we can worry about that, what should be. But if we keep teaching at the level of what should be instead of what is, they're never going to get there.
Yeah.
And so it's okay that they're not where with what should be. A mom or a dad should, right, be able to set firm boundaries without yelling and screaming, that they should be able to teach about values and about valuing other people. But if that's not their experience, if they grew up in such an environment, and that was one of the things that, as I was talking to some of the other teachers in the school that I spent a lot of my time in, I would hear things like, oh yeah, I had their mom. And they were the same way.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, now let's think about that. Yeah. So this mom was the lost little kindergartner and first grader.
And you can be breaking the cycle with her daughter or son.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
well, not had, but I had my friend went through the system, ended up being a principal,
Mm,
and he had a lot of the moms
yeah.
coming in going, what do I do about Johnny?
Yeah.
He's following my path and I'm begging him not to.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so as the principal, he'd get all the kids, the parents, the teachers together that had him to say, let's help
Mhm.
break this cycle.
Right.
Because
Right.
he chose to go to the more impoverished schools for that
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
You can make a huge difference there. The funny thing is that, my school shut down. And so the last 2 years that I taught, I was at, typical school, average incomes, all of that. And I would hear from some of the other teachers, and so there were 3 classes that were in my grade, and I would hear, oh, so and so so awful, he's terrible, or she's terrible, and she's so disruptive, and blah blah blah. And I'd be like, well, let's give you a break. Let's just let them spend the day in my class, and you can have a break. Really? I'm like, yeah. They were fine. But to me, I came from such a background and experience that, nobody got stabbed today. We're good.
Yeah.
And they're like, and their big problem was so and so just won't shut up. He's or
Yeah.
she, they're talk, and they always want to answer the question and they blurt it out. And so when they would come to my class, we had different games, and so we made things like when you were talking or when you could talk or whatever into that game. Or I would say, so much, let's have you help so and so. Right. And so you're using that as a positive instead of a negative.
Yeah.
And you're giving choices, So I had one little guy, and this works for parenting. Please listen for parents. So I had this one little guy, and I was warned about him when he came to my class, and he's just a tough kid, and well, the truth was he'd been adopted at about 18 months to 2 years, I can't remember, and had a horrible, traumatized beginning of life. And he had these amazing parents who were doing their best, who didn't quite understand how to help him through all of these emotions that he was feeling. And I've adopted my youngest she was 12.
Yeah.
Talk about some baggage, right? But you learn a lot of things. And so I can remember one time he was sitting and a specialist was doing a presentation, and she had her uppity ups there observing her, like we do in education. And I'm just sitting at the back letting her do her thing. And I see the same little boy, and he's sitting off to the side, and he's by a pocket chart. And he's just got to be messing with that. And he's just, and he's kind of banging it against the wall, and it was being a little disruptive. And so I went over and I sat down next to him and I said, hey, buddy, it looks like this isn't a good place for you to sit, because I see you really love this pocket chart. And so can you help me find a better place for you to sit where you can listen?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. So we had little sit-upons, little carpet things, and he picked his up and he moved it over. He chose where he was going to sit, and he was fine, perfectly fine after that, because he had a choice. I could present, this is the issue. I see you're having a hard time with this. Can you help me
Yeah.
find a better solution? And you know, it was kind of nice getting the accolades from certain people, but parents can do that so often when your kids are having a hard time, you know, whether it's getting them to sit quietly in church, you
Well,
know.
but I mean, it's even like bringing it back to that choice, right?
Yes.
Is like you can start as young as 2, I would believe, for
Oh,
sure
yes, you can.
3,
For
of
sure, 3. For sure, 3.
of
Mhm,
before bedtime.
mhm,
What do you want to wear tomorrow? Let's pick out 2 or 3 different outfits
mhm,
so we know which, and we'll pair them up like all the way down to underwear, socks, all the way, right?
mhm,
Then in the morning, all you have to
mhm.
do is go, I want to do this one.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. I
Yeah.
love that you mentioned that, because that is so important. And I love that you said 2 or 3 outfits, because if you just pick one, knowing, you know, whether they're 3 or 10, morning comes, they might not want the one they picked out last night.
Well, and
And
the
so
weather
when they
might
have
change.
choices,
Maybe
exactly,
not in Southern
exactly.
California, but anywhere else, we can wait 10 minutes and the weather
Trust me
changes.
here.
Right? And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's like you might have picked out shorts and a t-shirt, and then you wake
Mhm,
up and it's raining. Well, you might want your jeans and a sweater,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um and it just it relieves the pressure,
Mhm,
right? And then and like so when I was realizing my intuitive gifts in
mhm,
in my own life and subsequently in my coaching practice, it was I would look at my closet and I'd say, what do I feel like today? Who do I want to be today?
mhm,
And I just stand there and look at it. And I still do this today.
mhm.
And I'd be like, I feel blue today. And I'd grab a blue shirt.
Mhm.
Or like today I felt earthy. So I
There you
have my
go.
brown one. Right. And but with my gems. Right. So
Yes,
I
you've
have
got
the
your
spark.
beautiful gems.
Yeah, I got sparkles with earth, right? So I'm grounded, right? And so it's it's when we don't realize that we're making decisions every minute of every day,
Mhm,
and you can change them,
mhm,
right? Like I remember growing up and my report card said, if we could only keep her attention in the classroom. Well, because of my name, they always put me the chair beside the door.
mm.
So guess what I did? I looked out the window.
Sure.
I didn't hear the teacher. I looked out the window. Well, I caught some of it, but I looked out the window. If they had flipped the classroom that my name started on the window,
Mhm, mhm.
I was forced to look into the teacher because
Yeah.
I knew it was rude to turn and look out the window if I was
Mm.
on the window. Even to the point of when I go to a restaurant with friends,
Yeah.
I must see the door or I don't hear what the conversation is at the table.
Isn't that interesting?
I need to see the full spectrum of the restaurant as much as I possibly can so I can
Mhm.
hear what you're saying in the table. So
Wow,
much
that
so that
is so
my
interesting.
girlfriend busted me because she's like, I sat down and I never even thought about it. And then we are maybe 10 minutes in and she goes, change seats with me. And I go, why? And she goes, you're not hearing anything I'm saying. I go, whatever. So I changed seats and I'm like, oh, you're right. I wasn't hearing anything you were saying. So rewind, start again.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And so that somehow was ingrained in me
Mhm,
from very young, whether it's because of when I'm born, I don't know. But I was always like, but there's a big world out there to explore.
Mhm.
Why do you make me stay in the classroom?
Right.
But if you turn me around to say the world is in the classroom at this time, exploring can be different later,
Yeah,
right?
right. And that's part of teachers and parents recognizing
Mm-hmm.
those attributes within a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the things I did in my classroom was I didn't have, desks and chairs. I had some desks and chairs, but then I had some tables that were low enough that you sat on the floor to write on the table. I had some that were high enough that they could stand up and write and do their work. I would take those those plastic crates that
Mm-hmm.
you can get like at the
The milk jugs.
Walmart or whatever. Yeah. And then I would get one of those bigger balls also from that type of store, and I'd stick it in the crate, and the kids would sit on that, and because I had kids who had to move to learn,
Yeah.
right?
You're
Sitting
so
still.
so ahead of your time.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's from having, I think,
we did get
a
sidetracked.
child. I had a child that was very ADHD, extremely so. And so it was interesting as I was working with him, looking at the teachers that connected with him and the teachers that he struggled with. And the teachers that connected with him were the ones that he could stand up and stand at the back of the classroom if he needed to, while they were working. Or they didn't have desks that would go up and down, but our one teacher, he could write on top of a bookshelf,
Mm-hmm.
those half-size bookshelves. And so he could write on that if he needed to, use that as something.
Okay, so as we got sidetracked, but we'll finish this thought and then go back. But so Gabor Mate, he doesn't believe in those labels.
Mm.
Because he says we've labeled something that is their natural ability that they have learned from the day they first hit that crib. So an ADHD or ADD or whatever is a person who is saying, oh, I'm awake. Is it safe for me to say I'm awake? What's going on behind the door, on the other side of my door,
Mhm.
whether I can approach to say I'm awake or not awake.
Right.
Right. And then,
Mhm.
and then like he's talking about the obsessive compulsive, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to keep control
Yeah.
of an uncontrollable environment.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then on top of it, like we have the labels of labels on labels. I'm like, how many labels do you guys need?
Mhm.
We're all one.
Mhm.
Not female, not male, not in what other right?
Don't get me started.
Oh, I know. And it was really funny because all these people I've noticed, like in our networking stuff, like they're all doing the he, she, whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah. Mm-mm.
oh, who cares? Do you know how many
Exactly.
employers are saying if they have that on their resume, it gets tossed?
Oh, really?
You might be the best candidate for the job. They will not look
Mhm.
at you if you have that he, she.
Interesting.
And I went,
Well, because
wow.
it says some other things about you as well.
Like,
Like you're more likely to become offended at
yeah,
something
can't
that's
join
said.
in. Yeah.
You can't join it. You have to, so everyone has to walk on eggshells because they're afraid to say a joke, or they're,
Yeah.
afraid of, anything. I mean, whatever can set them off. They're
Yeah.
easily set off if they have those, generally speaking. I'm not,
Wow. Okay, that's a
Mhm.
whole different nugget to my little. Yeah, no, I love that because like it's interesting. But I'm going to take us back to,
Mhm.
so you were in the classroom the last
Mhm.
couple of years. You're in a normal school.
Mhm.
How did Little Hearts Academy get born?
Well, so as things were going, I even had parents who I taught their kids years before, and they were
Mhm.
still contacting me via,
Mhm.
all my parents always had my cell phone. I know they say that's a bad thing to do.
Mhm.
I never had anyone abuse it. Never.
Mhm.
But they would contact me and say, oh, this is going on. What can I do? How do I need to handle this? Whatever. And so I was already doing a lot of that, even though I didn't have their kids anymore. They were still contacting me.
Mhm.
And then, of course, what hit?
Okay.
COVID hit, and we're home and doing things. And I have parents now saying, now they're home. I'm supposed to be teaching this. How do I work this out? And so I started helping them. And then I knew that retirement was coming close. It came sooner than I expected, just because my husband could work remotely and he's like, we're out, we're gone. But I realized that I could probably help more people than just this small, relatively small group of people whom I was happy to help. But
Mhm.
I thought maybe I can reach out and help more people. And even in the last 2 years, as I was working, I would have parents even then say, my child doesn't cry when you're in class, but when you're absent, she cries all day.
Wow.
I had some kids that happened, and, okay. And so we would talk about that and say, okay, let's talk about what's going on and what are her expectations. And then so they were kids that were insecure and somewhat inflexible for whatever reason. They did not feel safe. So I made them feel safe. And I was really pleased that I was able to do that and grateful. But, they just had certain parameters that they needed for them to feel safe. And so we would start working on how can we help our child feel safe in other circumstances outside of what is their norm,
Mhm.
you know? And so anyway, it just started blooming and blossoming out. And then someone suggested, you ought to do a podcast. And so I thought,
Kind of
oh
like
gosh, that
me.
sounds like so much. Yeah. And so, but we started working, and it just kind of has evolved into, doing the group coaching, doing the one-on-one coaching, and doing the um, podcast. It's just kind of evolved
Well,
from there.
and um, I always like, especially I just finished this book of like, you're building up your I don't know, mission, like
Mm,
everything you do, right? And
mhm.
this is perfect evolution for your career as your husband's like, let's go. And you're like,
Yeah,
I can. I have a
yeah,
computer. Let's go.
yeah. And that's exactly what happened.
I can go to McDonald's and they can just deal with the noise or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If they need to if they need to talk to me. And
Yeah.
but it's interesting in a different respect of like I've always had great respect for teachers.
Mhm.
At one point I had a glimmer that I thought of being a teacher in a classroom, and I
Yeah.
thought, no, I'm not that type of teacher. I am a teacher, but not that type of teacher. But
Mhm.
yet my friends' parents were all teachers. I ended up
Mm,
hanging out with a lot of teachers. I
mhm.
would go to social networking groups and all the teachers would end up with me, and I'm like, what? And even okay, so even last month we had an election here, and so I'm working the election,
Mm,
and and one of the gentlemen says, well, how long have you been teaching? And I said, teaching what? He goes,
mm.
teaching school. I said, I'm not a teacher.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm not a teacher in that sense. I don't work in a school. And he says, really? And I go, well, why would you think I was? And he goes, you just have that like commanding
Yeah.
presence.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
started laughing. I'm like, that's maybe why when networks teachers come towards me,
Mhm.
because they just think
Yeah.
I'm a fellow teacher.
Yeah.
And in some ways I am, because I know I'm here on this earth to teach certain
Mhm.
things, but not in the classroom.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when I was working with the school, and one of the moms was just like, so why were my kids telling on each other the other day?
Mm,
And I said, I don't know why. Like, what was going on? Well, they said like you were saying they couldn't do something. And I started laughing, right? Because I was driving the bus and we
oh,
didn't have our regular bus because, whatever maintenance. And it was a brand new bus,
ooh.
like maybe a week out, right?
Uh-huh.
And so normally I don't care if they eat on the bus because I train my kids to be polite. There's a garbage, clean up after yourself, whatever. Well, the oldest one caught the younger one
Oh,
eating. And she goes, "You're not supposed to do it." You know, Adele said you can't do it. And she's like, "But I'm hungry. Well, you can wait." "No, I can't." And then they got home, the scrap is still happening. And the mom's going,
Sure. What
"What
is going
happened?"
on?
Right? And I started laughing and I said, "There's a new bus and I didn't want to clean it. I wanted to just give it, like, do the one run, give it back.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
clean."
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she started laughing. She goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "It took me 20 minutes to get through this. What was going on?" I said, "Well, you should have just called me.
Yeah.
I would have told
Yeah.
you. It was a brand new bus. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it."
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's funny because she's been on my mind lately. And I was like, I miss her. She used to
Yeah.
show up at the bus stop with gifts and all year round.
Oh, so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And I'd be like, "You don't have to." And she goes, "I want to." And I go, "Okay."
Yeah.
You know, and it was all of my favorite stuff, like homemade stuff, right? From the culture of their backgrounds. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
happy days,
That's
happy
the
days."
best.
Yeah.
That's the best. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you see Little Hearts Academy going?
Well, I see us getting down the road where, of course, the podcast is gaining more listeners and we're able to reach more people.
Mhm.
We do a challenge 3 times a year. So my July challenge is on living in peace. The next challenge will be in November, and that one is going to be on service.
Mhm.
We've done challenges on gratitude and kindness and all
And
of those things.
what does one of those challenges look like? What does the challenge on
Oh,
peace look like?
yeah, I'd love to tell you. So it's a 5-day it's a 5-day challenge. And so we start out with you get an email in the morning
Mhm.
with your focus for that day. So let's say, because we're right in the middle of it right now. So our first day was finding peace within yourself. And so what are some of the things that you can do to, because if you can't find peace within yourself, how are you going to spread it throughout if you have nothing to spread, right? The peanut butter jar is empty. So we're going to build that up within us. And then we do at 6 Mountain Time. We do just a short live where people get to come and they can share what worked for them or questions that they may have or whatever. And then we talk just in a little more detail about how you can implement that. The second day was on, let me see, I know today is on communication. Oh, no, yesterday was communication. Today is empathy. So finding empathy. So the way you speak and the way you talk to another person, the
Or
way that
yourself.
exactly. Yeah. So we talked about all of those things. And so each day we have like a different focus and it's a 5-day challenge. So it's a Monday through Friday thing. Always, they're always free. My challenges are always free. And and we love doing that. And then we're getting more people to sign up for our group coaching, which I love. I don't make as much money on it, but I don't care about that. But they get to engage with other parents who are going through much of the same things that they are, or they can say,
Well,
I had this problem, and we're communing together in strategizing, and I'm helping them through all of that. But it's not just me saying, oh, well, here's what you need to do. And this is what, I do some of that, but we also listen to each other in, experiences and ideas and identities and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's great. I have the one-on-one coaching where, if you feel like you just need that intensive, just me and you talking and maybe talking with the child there, it just depends on what you have going on. And so I've got all of that.
well, and it's interesting because as we were talking before we started the podcast, like my whole
Mhm.
coaching is shifting.
Yeah.
And like I'm seeing this over and over and over again of now that we're in the new world,
Mm,
post-pandemic,
right.
we need to be in our trust that we are looked after
Hmm.
because we're here to serve. End of
That
story.
is so important.
It is
You've hit the
never,
nail on the
if
head.
the minute, and I got a hard lesson on this, the minute we put the dollar sign before service is the
Mhm.
minute we don't have clients,
I agree.
right?
Yeah.
And so like, okay, so the group sessions might not be your big money ticket, whatever, right? But you know
Mhm.
what? Those kids are going to be better adults to look after us because their parents got together and
Yeah.
helped each other. And
Yeah.
you're just a connector, and you go, you're blessed,
Mhm.
because it'll come
And
back to you tenfold.
yeah. And really, I'm not in this to make a buttload of money.
No,
It'd be nice
I
if,
know, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just
yeah,
like this is what I've been going through
yeah.
probably the last 6 months of my journey. Like, clients
Mhm.
were coming, and then dried, and I went, what?
Oh, wow.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah, and so I had to rethink, like, what am I doing? I put the money
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time I put money ahead, my service goes down because I'm trying to make the dollar. And then I
Yep.
go, nope, I am here to serve. I'm here to
Mhm.
teach. I'm here to connect,
Yeah.
because my higher self knows
Yeah.
I'm always looked after.
Exactly. You know what? You're exactly right. And I think I really do believe that the more service, the more love that we can show,
Yeah.
the more peace that we can spread, you know.
Because the
And when
kids
I'm
being
angry, I
born
don't
now,
need to
yeah,
add to the noise.
the
If your
kids
kids are,
being, yeah, sorry, but the kids being born now
uh-huh,
know this.
yeah.
They're looking at us going, why don't you get this?
Mhm.
Because I see it in my grandniece.
Ah,
And my niece is going, she's so much work. And I go, because you're fighting her.
yeah,
I'm not fighting her. I go, you're fighting her.
yeah,
Just like, yes, be her guide. Say, is that really safe to do that? And then she'll laugh. No, right? And she'll go, right?
yeah, yeah.
But it's like they're getting the friction because
Mhm.
she might only be 3, but she's 15. She's aware, she knows, right?
Yeah,
And it's really hard for us that we're brought up in a different world
yeah,
to trust that they are the angelic beings that they are, and
right,
they don't have the baggage we have.
right. Well, and I believe with all my heart that there's a reason that we are here at the time we are
Absolutely.
here in all of Earth's history.
Yeah.
Why are we here when we've got flush toilets and,
Mhm.
cars and movie theaters and all of these things where
And all the corruption and all the darkness.
99.999% didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
there's a reason we're here now,
Yeah.
and there's a purpose for us. And as you look at the world and you look at society and what's going on, um, we're either part of the problem or we're part of peace. And
Well, I'll
even
extend
people
that.
who
I think we
stand
can
on
be
the
the peace
side,
and the solution.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And there are people who like stand back and like, I don't want to get involved. I'm just doing my thing here. By not being part of that solution and looking out for others and, doing that, you're moving toward the problem side.
Mhm.
And so we need to raise our kids and say, you know what, you're going to be a mommy someday. You're going to be a daddy someday. Let's
Mhm.
talk about, how you're feeling. And it's funny, I was 19 when it really hit me. I had my boyfriend, but it hit me that really the decisions I'm making today are going to affect the children I have in the future. I am effectively raising my children, my unborn children today with my decisions. And I'm really blessed that I came to that conclusion that clearly at such a young age. That was a big blessing for me.
Oh, do
And
you
I
want
think
to
my
even
family.
hear crazier sign of that?
Ooh, let me hear.
Your egg was actually in your grandmother. So your grandmother, as she aged, was raising you.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah.
So you were birthing your grandkid.
Yeah.
So, and that's why everyone's like, oh, grandparenting is so much fun. Because you birthed your kids, you're parenting your grandchildren. And that's why the bond
yeah.
is so
Mhm.
important,
Mhm.
right? Because like, so my nephew, like when we were visiting, they're just like, oh, I never got enough time with grandma and grandpa. And I'm like, because now there's 4 generations
Mm.
all in one house and all trying to communicate.
Wow.
Total chaos.
Whoa.
Because the grandparents and the grandkids are trying to talk,
Mhm.
right? But now, like me, who's the grand of their kid, we're trying to talk,
Right.
and all the lines are getting blurred.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
It's
exactly right.
fascinating. It's
Yeah.
fascinating, but it's also like my awareness of it is amazing.
Mhm.
I've been working a lot with the generational stuff, right? Because even though I
Mhm.
never knew my grandfathers, they speak to me all the time.
Mine too.
And yeah, and I'm just
Mine
like,
too.
I knew the day my one grandfather passed, right?
Mm.
Because I came home from school crying, and my mom's like, "What happened?" I go, "You'll know soon enough." And
Wow.
she goes, "Oh, here she goes again," right? And then my aunt called, Dad died,
Mm.
and then it's fine, right? Because it wasn't my place to tell her,
Mhm.
right? I didn't know
Mhm.
him, but I knew he had passed.
Wow.
And then even with my grandmother, like when she passed, whatever, it's like, oh, we have some sad news. I go, yeah, grandma passed. Why do we
Mm.
even bother? I go, because I like hearing it from you, that you know it.
Well, I wasn't that intuitive.
Well,
It was a surprise
yeah, and
to
well,
me.
like that's part of what I do is I help people
Mhm.
transition.
Mhm.
So my grandmother came to me and said,
Mm.
this isn't living. She was in a coma. This isn't living.
Mm.
I want to go.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So I helped her over the bridge.
Wow.
Right. And so, yeah. So, I mean, like, and that's my struggle is like, how do I put myself in this box? And so I don't,
Mhm.
I just don't. If you're in a transition, whatever transition that is,
I was just thinking
I
that.
will show the clarity because I'm the lighthouse. And then someone says, well, what if you're on the boat? And I go, the boat's moving. I'm not.
Yeah.
The lighthouse is still on the boat, right? Whether the lighthouse is on the rocks and the boat hits the rocks, or the lighthouse is on the boat and you choose to see the rocks and hit them, that's still up to you. That's your
Mhm. Yeah.
conscious choice to make. But I
Mhm.
am the one who's the lighthouse to say, here's your conscious choice. Here's the unconscious choice that I'm trying to show you.
Mhm.
Choose your path. Your path is your path, right? And that's
Right.
what that book was saying, was like, okay, so I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to be a teacher. And then someone says, well, what about a teacher in science? But no, I want to be
Mm.
a math teacher. Okay. But then you take a couple courses in science. Oh, science could be okay. And then someone else says, but you could take science and math and put them together
Mm.
in like gene discovery or whatever, right? Like doing your
Mhm.
genes, right? Well, yeah, but I really like the statistics of stuff. And then someone goes, but you can put all 4 of those things in the statistics.
Mm.
And next thing you know, you end up as an author,
There you are.
right?
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
what? That's what's building the critical mass of who you are here to be.
Right.
And as a young educator, right?
Mhm.
Let them have their 500 ideas,
Yeah.
right? Because I remember
Yeah.
my friend's sons coming home and I said, so what kind of things do you think of like you might want to be? He
Mhm.
was super smart in the math.
Mm.
He loved the earth. And he goes, I think I'm going to be an astronaut so I can farm in space. And I went, cool.
Yeah.
Right. So he did the
Yeah.
farming for a bit. He's doing the engineering now. And who knows? He's still young enough.
Who
He can
knows?
farm in space.
Yeah, let's connect him with Elon.
Yeah, right? No, but I mean, and so like I think about that and I think, how funny.
Yeah,
How funny. Right? And
yeah.
then like I even think of like, oh, it would be really good that that person didn't have to go through those struggles.
Mm.
And then you fast forward and you go, if they didn't go through those struggles, they wouldn't be this person today.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Right? And so you're like,
yeah,
you could negate that, but then you'd
yeah,
lose that. Like so
yeah.
yeah, the path is the path, right? And I think I'm meeting more and more teachers again and educators and
Nice.
um I always thought I'd have a center of some kind.
Oh,
And I always thought it was a healing center. And then I'm like, no, no. And then I'm like, I'm wondering if it's going down the education center.
it might. It might.
Yeah.
I've worked with some there are centers that specifically work with teachers and like you can even go there after school and they'll help you with resources even down to lesson planning. So that's a big stress for teachers is getting
Mhm.
the lesson planning done. And it looks at those stressors and helps teachers through them.
Mhm.
And they're great centers.
Well, it was funny because I volunteer with a teacher and she's like, I've just had to accept as I'm just about to ready to retire, I'm not an organized teacher. I'm not.
Mm,
I never will
yeah.
be. My desk will never be clean. And I'm
Yep.
okay with that. But she says, I'm really excited that I share, like, I don't know what the whole classroom, I don't know what she shares, but with this other teacher
Mhm,
who is meticulous with schedules
mhm.
and
Yeah.
butter. And she'll just leave me a sticky note. You might want to
Yeah.
think about deet, deet, deet. And she goes, and it helps. I can just
Yeah.
keep on following her path in my chaos. And I
Yeah.
just laugh because I'm like, it's so funny. And
Yeah.
I'm like kind of that way too, right? I'm a
Mhm.
planning sensation,
Ah.
right? And then you put a wrench in my plan, I'm like, stop it, but I can flow.
Mhm,
Once I get over
mhm.
that first initial shock, I can flow. But
Right.
it's just like,
Right.
stop it.
Right. Yeah.
So this has been lovely.
It has.
And as we're wrapping up, what would you like the listeners to know?
Mm.
To
I would love them to know that um, there is no perfection in anything, including parenting and including being a kid, and that it's okay to um, see, open your eyes and see, well, that didn't work well. And I would love for you to come to those situations in a place of curiosity
Mhm.
rather than condemnation of yourself or your child or your spouse. Be curious about, oh gosh, what happened here? And I think that you will find a greater peace in your heart, in your home, in your relationships when you can approach it in that way and get over that things aren't perfect because things will never be perfect. It's okay. In fact, that's part of the fun.
And I just want to add to something that because all of a sudden I was like, and don't come with what you had.
Mm.
Because the nugget might be for you that your child is teaching.
Oh, I will
Right.
guarantee it.
Yeah.
I will guarantee it.
Yeah. And especially as you talked about the cyclical next generation.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Because these
Yeah,
young ones are trying to teach us that this doesn't have to keep going.
right. Right. You're exactly right.
So once again, authentic conversations from Transition Clarity. I'm your host, Adele. Thank you, DJ and Little Hearts Academy for being on our show today.
You bet.